Hi, this is Brad Straley with JaxForLife. I'd like to talk today about homes, what I call homes for unwed mothers. I know there's a nicer term for it, and our guest is going to correct me on that momentarily. Today we have Maureen Mitchell, director from Divine Mercy House. Maureen, thanks for being on today.
Well, good morning, Brad. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
I appreciate it, and please correct me. I know that's not the correct term, home for unwed mothers. What should I be using?
Well, maternity homes is probably the most common phrase.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
And just like you say, it is a home for women who are single women who are facing an unexpected pregnancy and are homeless. And we are a Christian home, but we are open to women of all faiths. Again, they would need to be single, 19 years old or older, pregnant and homeless. So we love helping them have a nice, healthy baby and find their way into an apartment and a job. And a lot of times there are educational needs as well. They lack a high school diploma, for example, would be a common theme. And we do have tutors that will come in and help with them to study and get their GED.
For the folks, and I have to backtrack a second. I've been doing this for a long time, and for folks that are just listening, homeless young women that are pregnant, that just doesn't seem to be something that should be happening in America these days. How prevalent is this?
I agree. It's probably more common than people might realize or even consider or think about on a regular basis. There are as many variety of stories and reasons why women find themselves in the situation as there are women that come into the home. There are no two stories that are alike. I think we all have to think about what it is to be homeless and how easy truly it is to become homeless. I think anyone middle class, you don't have to be poor. If you're particularly single, losing a job due to a health concern, you will find that without a paycheck, because most people do live paycheck to paycheck, if you miss 2 or 3 paychecks because you've had a car accident and you've been in a coma for a month, more than likely you won't be able to catch up and afford your bills, particularly your housing, whether it's apartment or mortgage, and before you know it, you are homeless. The stories, again, are as varied as women whose parents have both passed away at a young age, maybe in their teens. There's drug issues that come into play with their parents, and they find the whole family being homeless, and then maybe the parents are incarcerated or they pass away, and then you might have a 14, 18-year-old fending for themselves kind of on the street, and the pregnancy comes shortly thereafter, and or they are sex trafficked is another theme that we see. So it's really a variety of different reasons, but people just find themselves without a home and do get pregnant, and oftentimes the man or the father of the child walks away from the situation. He too might be very young or married, or just, again, the situations are all different, and they do not support the woman. And there is where I kind of open my eyes, like, why? Why do they feel it's okay to kind of shirk that duty and responsibility that's their child equally, yet it is up to that woman to take care of that situation, and she's the one carrying the baby, and ultimately the responsibility falls on her shoulders. And that's kind of where we come in, step in, and give her a beautiful home to stay in with some nurturing and love and caring and hugs, because she's devastated, broken, confused, and sad about the situation she's found herself in.
I'm glad you guys are doing that. What are the average ages of the women that you see?
They're typically young, 19. They would have to be at least 19 years old to come to our maternity home. However, there is another in St. Augustine called St. Gerard Campus that is an accredited high school. They will take children in that are younger. And then there's a brand new maternity home that just opened in Jacksonville. I believe it's on the west side, and it's called Hope House. And it takes in even younger young teens, like 14, 15 years old, and very limited, though, 1 or 2 women. We have a maximum of 4 women. So the range is 19 in our situation on up, with no upper age limit at all. But we do find in our situation the vast majority range between 19 and 25. And on average, probably the average age would be 23 and a half, 24.
Okay. You talked about transitional housing, and that, being an old person, I haven't thought about that in decades. How do you help the young mother
transition out? Yes, well, it's a challenge. I'll start with that. It's definitely a challenge, and particularly if a woman has had a felony of any type, certainly if she's incarcerated with a felony. I'm going to use the word impossible because I've not seen any exceptions to that. I hate to say impossible like it never, ever could happen, that she would get public assistance for housing, but I have yet to see it happen. Typically, if you go to a subsidized apartment complex and you're filling in an application and you put on there, have you been arrested, have a felony, particularly if it's around domestic violence, and certainly if that woman is the perpetrator of that violence, more likely than not, she will not find herself eligible for public housing. So that is a huge challenge we face, and we are concerned about that. I was actually talking to a police officer in St. Augustine recently who indicated that she had a 70-year-old man in her car. He was getting something at Walgreens, some meds, I guess, and she indicated to me that because he had a felony like 20 or 30 years prior, he was 70, he still could not get housing and he was homeless. So it's a lifelong, let's say, sentence of not. Now, of course, you can go on Craigslist or go somewhere else and get a roommate and get an apartment in someone else's name, and that's maybe some ways you can work around it, but that is truly a challenge. Other than that, it's getting the education. It's getting a decent paying job. I mean, we could talk about the minimum wage and so on and so forth. We won't get into all of that, but truly a minimum wage for a single woman raising one child would have to be in the no less than $12 to $15 an hour job. Without that, you definitely would need a roommate or some subsidized housing, because we know, particularly in Jacksonville, just for a studio is $600, $700, $800, and without a subsidy, anyone could do the math. And a lot of times, jobs will not allow a woman to work full time. They just don't offer, 40-hour work weeks. I would imagine that's due to giving them benefits or being required to give benefits. But without getting into a whole lot of detail about it, it is challenging. It stems on education, which then leads to a decent paying job in the 12 to 15 and up range, so that she then can afford a non-subsidized housing. And hopefully she can get subsidized or some assistance, or get a roommate, a friend, live with a sister, or something like that. And that is what people who have moved out successfully have done.
Great. Now, these women are young, like you said, 19 to 25. Most of them have been dependent on someone for most, if not all, of their lives. How do you teach them independence when they're young, they're having to learn independence? Oh yeah, then they're having a baby on top.
Mhm. And you can imagine the fear and anxiety and worry and all that these young women have, finding themselves in this situation and just really not knowing where to go, what to do, or where to turn. We do provide classes on budgeting, certainly parenting classes, birthing classes. What is it to give birth? Most of them, it is their first child. And they never had that experience. You may not have a parent, aunt, cousin, or anyone who has given birth that can, walk them through the process of birthing. Certainly parenting. We utilize the women's centers in the area. First Coast Women's is the one we have nearby on San Jose Boulevard. They do the ultrasound pregnancy tests, all free of charge, and then they do give classes, and they have maternity clothes, and baby items that they give away for free as the woman transitions through their programming. There's a wonderful program up at Shands Hospital for the actual birthing process. It's a full-day training that they have. Certainly our wonderful volunteers that we rely heavily on that come in on a daily basis, Monday through Thursday evenings, just sharing their thoughts, ideas, parenting skills. One of our residents, she was very interested in knowing how to swaddle. I'm going to have this baby in a couple months. I need to learn how to swaddle. It was really cute. So we took, our baby doll and practiced swaddling. Oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought, she said. I said, yeah, a lot of this comes naturally. It's kind of common sense. But there is certainly a lot of fear, anxiety, with a single woman who is learning to do. So we have budgeting, we have cooking, sewing. They have made burp cloths and baby quilts with our sewing volunteer, and again, these classes in the community. Also, some counseling, sitting down with them one-to-one, talking about their plan, checking in with them on a weekly basis about their education, about their job search, and so on. And even to back up, we start with many of the women who are homeless have maybe had their wallet stolen, or they don't have the important documents like birth certificate, social security card. And we have to go ahead and, take them up to the appropriate agencies to get those important documents so they can move forward, get WIC, get food stamps, and so they have some assistance and help in getting through, feeding their child. We also have access to our food pantry. So we have a variety of different supports right there at the home, like washing facilities and cooking facilities and such for them, refrigeration and all the like. When you're homeless and you don't have that, those are really huge things to have, at your fingertips. And then, in addition, we do have spiritual worship daily. That is a requirement. And then we do require weekly worship as well, because we really feel and know, and I know in my heart personally, that spiritual component can get people through very, very difficult situations. Prayer and the hope that brings does kind of settle them into a trust and a hope rather than anxiety and a disorder and chaos in their life. So it's really a big combination of that, of our home, of the volunteers, the staff, wonderful staff that we have. We are there 24 hours a day for the women. And I have had that knock on my door at 3 a.m. when one of the women was in labor. So we have to be there 24 hours for them. We have a high security camera because you can imagine, some might have come from some violence or issues like that in their past, and we want to keep the home as safe as possible for our moms and babies. So we try to give, a whole comprehensive feel to their experience, from the classes to the spiritual trainings and teaching and talking, to the outside community and the education and the GED and FSCJ. Just for your listeners to know, too, this is great that I found this out. Anyone who's homeless can get a free education as long as they're homeless, and they have to prove they're homeless, obviously, at FSCJ, and we're ever so grateful and thankful for that opportunity for our women. Of course, they would have to have graduated high school and qualify for FSCJ in other ways. But as far as the funding of that, it's been extremely helpful because, again, without an education, these women will stay in the $8 to $9, $10 jobs. And doing the math, you will see very clearly you cannot survive on that income with a baby being single.
Cannot. Hi, we're speaking with Maureen Mitchell with the Divine Mercy Home. We're going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.
The Divine Mercy House takes care of mothers facing an unplanned pregnancy, and you can help them in their mission by shopping at their thrift store. Visit the Divine Mercy Thrift Store at 11018 Old St. Augustine Road. Your tax-deductible donations are also welcome. Visit DivineMercyHouse.org or call 268-6282. That's DivineMercyHouse.org, 268-6282.
Hi, this is Brad Stranley with JaxForLife. We've been speaking with Maureen Mitchell with Divine Mercy House. We've been talking about the house, and I wanted to ask personally, Maureen, how long have you been doing this yourself?
I've been working there as the resident director for a little over a year, and I just feel honored. It's a challenge, but there are so many blessings that come with it. I, too, was a single pregnant woman at age 19, and so I have that experience that I can relate very clearly with the women and to know a lot of what they're going through. And actually the staff too. It's ironic that we've hired other women who have been single young moms at a young age. So it's really, I think, just a network like a family in many ways, and the women, watching them talk and interact with one another, I think, is really interesting, and just sharing all kinds of information with one another and encouraging one another. We really like a drama-free kind of experience for them, and to be supportive of one another. That's really our key goal, because so many of the women have faced some hard times and some trauma and some difficulties, and we're just wanting to make it as smooth and calm and tranquil and loving in that home as possible. So that's what our goal is. A lot of the women, as I said, have gone through some very traumatic times. If they hadn't, there really wouldn't be a need. If they had the support of a loving home, loving family versus drug addiction and chaos and, trauma and even just being abused, it's an environment that they thankfully can get away from. And this has been, I would say, an overarching theme with the women who have come through. Not every single one, but the majority of them have faced those types of abuse, neglect, and turmoil in their biological home or the home, adoptive home, or the foster home that they came from. So we're thankful for the experience with them. We learn as much from them as hopefully they learn from us, and we love it.
Yeah, they need to be treated. How long has the house been serving mothers?
Well, it had some humble beginnings. Mm-hmm. It started in a home that Vicki and Peter Prince owned. They are now on the board. Peter's the president of our board. One of their family homes, they opened up to women, and then with the help of parishioners from the St. Joseph's Catholic Church on Old St. Augustine Road, it evolved into the building of a home right next to that historical, beautiful church, St. Joseph's Old Church. And then it's evolved from there. We had a lot of input from the priests, but also the St. Gerard campus. So Carol down there has been wonderful in supporting, and she'll call me every so often, check in. She's wonderful. She's been doing a long time, but it started really, again, the humble beginnings in the late 90s, and it has evolved to what it is today. And it's been at the current location in a brand new facility, 6-bedroom home, I want to say for about 14 years, 12 to 14 years now.
That's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So all this costs, I can only imagine, a ton of money. Mm-hmm. Do you charge the mothers to live there?
We do not. It's interesting, just very briefly, is the way it works is if they are not working, they do not pay a penny to be there. And that's why our donations are key and very helpful. Now, if they are working, we have our third rule. And very briefly, what it means is they keep a third of that income. 1/3 goes into a savings, a forced savings, we'll call it, for them in their name that we hold for them. And they get it upon leaving. And that's used typically for that deposit with JEA or their apartment or whatever the need is to move out. Third is that we do keep a third of that income up to $300 a month. And that does help offset. Plus, it is kind of like the real world. You have to pay something if you're working to live somewhere. And so again, if you're not working or you've just had the baby, because there's about a 6-week period, a couple weeks before, you typically can't work because you're so pregnant, ready to give birth. And typically 6 weeks after birth, you can't work because more and more employers now are requiring you wait that 6 weeks before they take you back to the workplace, and only with a doctor's note. So again, those donations are to keep it running for the women who can't work and contribute. We do have a thrift store that we love because it does two things. Number one, people who donate to our thrift store, which is on Old St. Augustine Road, called the Divine Mercy House Thrift Store. It allows our women to volunteer there if they're not working and they want to do something and get out while they're waiting to be hired. And they can also use $25 a week as long as they're participating in, the classes, as I mentioned before. They can go and spend $25 there per week that they get. And a lot of the women will save up that $25 per week, and they'll buy couches and carpets and so on and chairs when they leave the house and use it for their apartment. So that's a huge thing for them. Or they might need clothes, shoes. Again, being homeless, they often have very few belongings and so on. So they can gather, and we store for them maybe cups, coffee pots, and so on that they can get from the thrift store. And by volunteering, they find out what's there. And so we are so grateful for the donors to the thrift store.
That is a blessing. So currently, Maureen, what needs does your house have?
Well, just a lot of prayers. We can always use volunteers. We can always use, right now, a couple baby crib mattresses. And even a baby crib, we could use probably one baby crib and 2 crib mattresses. We're always in need of paper products. One of our donors is wonderful. She, every month, sends through Amazon a carton of paper towel and toilet paper. So those are always welcome items. We just have been so blessed. People will leave strollers. We could use like one of those small, I call it an umbrella stroller. We could use one of those. But if you want to give us a call too, you can. Your listeners could call us, and we can be more specific with other needs that come along. Next week or next month, they can reach us at 904-268-6282, and give us a call. Also on our Facebook page, every so often, if a need comes up, we will post it on our Facebook page, which is Divine Mercy House Facebook page. Also, our website has a lot of great information on it, divinemercyhouse.org. And divine is spelled D-I-V-I-N-E. Sometimes people want to put divine, like, it's divine, darling. But it's divine, D-I-V-I-N-E, like our Lord divine. So please visit us, call us. There's ways to participate, but certainly pray for us. Pray for the women that are there. We really, as staff, volunteers, need your prayers, but more importantly, the women and the babies and them keeping their jobs, finding jobs, are all things that people can do to help us out, is to pray for us.
That's right. And so not everyone can write a check, though we certainly need it, from the radio station, the Jacksonville for Life, to Divine Mercy House. Volunteers that you need, what kind of work? Everyone can do something. If someone can do something.
Everyone can do something. Yeah, we do have some great volunteers. Evening volunteers that come in to help with cooking and budgeting and so on, and just mentoring and supporting and talking with the ladies are needed on a regular basis. We do have a wonderful group of volunteers right now, but with summer coming, I'm thinking they'll be off to weddings and people get ill or just go on vacation. So we could use fill-ins for the evening, 6 to 9 p.m. Also, we have a baby bottle drive. I should mention that for sure. There are about 5, maybe 6 churches now, Catholic churches, in our area that we distribute these little plastic baby bottles out to the parishioners, and then they fill it with money, and then they bring them back to the church, and we collect them. So that over a 3 Sunday period, well, and Saturday night too, 3-week period, we distribute the first 2 weeks and then collect the last 2 weeks. So, and we find them at our doorstep. We just found one yesterday. They leave it there. They leave them at the rectory. They'll call, wonder where they can put them because they filled it with money, or they just simply write out a check and will mail it to us. And we are just so grateful and thankful for all of the volunteers, the donors, and the prayers that people send our way, because we can feel it. We really benefit by it all, and our donors to the thrift store as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We are just about out of time, Maureen. Again, how can someone reach you?
Okay, the phone number is 904-268-6282, or my personal email is director@divinemercyhouse.org, and that's DIVINE, mercyhouse.org. And again, visit our Facebook page, which is Divine Mercy House, or visit us at our website is divinemercyhouse.org. And if there are women who are single, pregnant, and finding themselves in a difficult situation, they can go to that website, and in the upper right corner of our homepage, there is an application and our handbook. And if anyone's interested, the handbook does give a lot of detail as the responsibilities that we require of the women who live there. And that is, participating in our classes and delivering, following doctor's orders, all the little details of their comings and goings in the house and their need to work, further their education, and volunteer at our thrift store if they can. So they can get tons of information. It's about a 20-page document at divinemercyhouse.org website, upper right corner.
Maureen, I hate to interrupt, but we are out of time already. I want to thank you for joining us today and for all you do to promote a culture of life. We'd like to thank the station for being faithful to His Word in this opportunity. And thank you for listening today. For more information about local pro-life efforts, please visit us at JaxForLife.org. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, do something. Save babies in Jacksonville. God bless.
Thank you. God bless you all.